All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Tipple's Wine of the Week virtual wine tasting with Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre from Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida. Thank you for joining us. This week,
the button on this end, on the top.
we're heading down
no, the
to
end closer to you.
Argentina. We're going to be
The top
enjoying
panel.
the Antigal Aduentus, which means arrival
Okay.
in Cabernet Franc.
Paul always does his favor of holding the bottle up to the camera,
That's
which
right.
is perfect.
That's
Thank you.
perfect. So yeah, the Antigal Aduentus, which is a Latin word, not a Spanish word, though
Okay.
I'm sure there's some derivative in
Well,
in
I'm
Spanish.
sure.
They're so related. Anyway, so we're heading back to Mendoza, one of my favorite places in the world, no doubt. So if you have not already done so, it is time to pour this magic liquid into your glasses. I threw mine in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes to get it down to around 60 degrees. I like it to be around European cellar temperature and to give it a good splash on the way in, especially because we're dealing with Cab Franc. It's going to have a lot of additional flavors. It's a complex grape. So will you pull up the slide for me, please? We'll talk about food pairings and such. All right, so the Antigal Aduentus Cab Franc rating 91 and 90 points. So Tim Atkinson.
I was going to ask what TA was, because I don't think we've seen that a lot.
He pops up now and again.
Okay.
But yeah.
And
Actually, and it's interesting because I don't know if he prevents some of my normal locations that I look for information from using it and wants it only on his, but I found that directly from the winery.
Okay. All right.
So, which I love. Their webpage is really helpful. If anyone wants to go find out more about this winery, they do make great wines across the board. They even have videos of different subsections of them making the wine and such, but I didn't want to get too carried away with videos.
Jeff could watch them all day.
Oh yeah, I'd just be here like, hey guys, let's just tune in and all watch together. Then we're gonna get done with Godzilla movies. All right, so versatile food pairings on this guy: roast pork, Italian meat sauces, roast duck, lentil and mushroom stew. So it's a great wine that can handle the meats, you know, and the savory items.
Okay.
Not so much meant for hot, spicy.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Flavorful.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have chili.
Yes.
Which for me, I think it's flavorful and you think is spicy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have nonoki soup that we made,
Right.
which again, I would say is flavorful and you would say is spicy.
Right.
So do either one of them pair with this?
It kind of lands in the middle of the two. They would both work. I think they would both be on the spectrum. You're like, okay, yes, and okay, yes. You're right. They're kind of on each end of the spectrum because the nonoki soup has that hot Italian spice, but for turkey.
Right.
So yes, because Cab Franc is not as intense as like a Petit Syrah, you know. So.
All right. Yeah, because everything I was looking at, I was thinking, okay, very savory. Although when you go to Italian meat, that can be spicy.
Right, but not that much. Is more of the traditional Italian sauces that are not quite as spicy. But they're flavorful with all the herbs. They would be more like that. All right, so let's jump over, and I'll begin talking about the wine as we have a sniff and a taste.
Okay.
And work our way in. There we go. All right, so this is 100% Cab Franc, Argentinian. It is, the Argentinians produce kind of a unique style of Cab Franc, and it's a little bit different from the origin production. And we'll talk a little about, which is more of the French style.
Hold on. I'm going to take him out real quick because he just ate and he won't stop. Did you guys hear that? He just burped.
That's mine.
Okay. He burps a lot.
Yeah, by the way, he's now up. You guys can't see it. I could almost put the camera on there because he's up with Elizabeth in her lap.
Now he's down as I went to touch the camera.
So I will move on. This is the non-slide part anyway.
Right. And so I figured you know how to handle this part.
Yeah.
Without me.
Yeah. But you won't know. And there's going to be a pop quiz.
I'll,
And you
okay,
will not be prepared.
I'll cheat. I'll text people and ask the
All right,
answers.
fine. Take care of the dog. All right, so 100% Cab Franc on this guy, 14.8, so pushing 15% on the ABV. That would be certainly maybe a bit higher than you'd get if you were in France. 14 months in oak, combination of French and American. So we're going to get a little heavier oak regimen on this guy that should be apparent as we smell it. I tell you, I get a nice floral component on here, which we'll go into. There's a nice floral style is common with Cab Franc. Nice dark fruit. So I'm getting black cherries and black, kind of a dark plum. Definitely a little bit of a flowers. I would almost go violets over roses. Roses would be typical in France, but there's a little more of a purpley quality in my mind. Maybe a little bell pepper on that nose as well. I'm not even sure bell pepper, maybe some kind of red pepper.
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit more like a rose water or rose petal or something else like that. And I was like, that's not quite right. It's definitely floral, but not that.
Right, yeah. And I kind of want to jump there because a French traditional Cab Franc would be more roses. And I agree that this is a little different from that, a little richer. And then another thing that would be common would be kind of a green bell pepper quality. Now, it shouldn't be overwhelming or it's not as well grown. But to me, on the nose at least, I haven't gotten to the palate yet. I would go with a little bit more of a red pepper, or kind of a nice spiciness kind of thing. Or, the flesh of a red pepper before the heat is more of what I'm talking about, that quality. All right, first sip. Oh, I'm so happy with this wine. It's got some of that peppery quality, some of the floral quality. I love the heavier body and nice tannins. Now, once again, often Cab Franc is not particularly tannic. It can be medium bodied with low tannins like a Pinot Noir, just a little more intensity in color. And some different flavors, but this guy's got some nice tannin. This could handle a more robust meat dish, something like a ropa vieja or something like that would be amazing with this.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with the beef and the peppers. And the pepper. So winemaker says aging potential. This is interesting. They actually provide an aging potential from the winemaker for this one. So not, so I get to hear their opinion. Yeah. So they say about 8 years.
Okay.
So what's kind of cool on this is we're 7 years in on this vintage.
Okay.
This is one of their higher rated vintages. I chose it specifically.
Okay.
It's not common that I can choose my vintage from the distributor, but they had multiple vintages available.
Nice.
And so I went with the 15 because I wanted to taste the 15 after reading the notes.
Sure.
And we're dealing with a fully mature version of this wine as well, which I think is kind of fun as well. It's like, all right, this wine's not meant to age 20 years, but here we are kind of at its peak.
Yeah, no, I'm very happy with this wine. Paul and Linda have a question.
Hey, I probably just missed it because I think you said it, but you were talking about the oak, and I'm looking at the bag. It says aged in oak for 14 months, 70% French and 30% American. That's talking about the oak.
Yes. So that's where the origin of the oak is. So why does that matter, right? And that can be our little, like.
So before you finish, I haven't heard of it split like that before. Like.
Oh, that's common.
It isn't? Oh, okay.
Yep,
All
it
right.
is because it's what they want to accomplish. So let's go over the 3 major types of oak in use. All right. So French oak, American oak, and Eastern European Hungarian oak.
Oh.
All right.
We don't mention that very often.
Not often. We did with, I can't remember the winemaker where they make their own cooperage and they bring it in from Hungary. They were Zinfandel makers because that's where close to where Zin originated, right? So, or maybe it was Croatia. Anyway, it was over there in Eastern. That's why Eastern Europe, right?
Right.
Hence the broad term. So those three different locations, the oak from that area provides different qualities. And it's based on the cell structure of the oak. The larger the cell structures, the more open and porous it becomes, the larger the effect the oak will have on the wine. What effect is that, Jeff? Okay, so you put in these wines that can be very tannic and grippy, but in an unpleasant kind of way, a grabbing, a grabbing rough kind of wine. And its job is to smooth it out, not to get rid of the tannins. And they actually provide some of their own tannins as well, depending on how young the oak is. So winemakers would choose French, which is in the middle. So French is actually, yeah, pretty much. So anyway, French is in the middle, but a kind of a fine quality, provides more spice, and it smooths out rough edges without asserting its presence with a lot of vanilla.
Okay.
American oak is very aggressive and porous, and it has a significant effect on the wine. So if you use young first use American oak, you're going to get tons of vanilla, and you get a little bit of coconut and dill.
Okay.
All right, and Hungarian is even finer, even smaller pores, so it can have even less smaller effect on there. But once again, so it's a spectrum. And then spectrum A is which oak do you use? Spectrum B is do you use new oak or oak that's already been used before? So what will happen is barrels will run in the gambit where you have somebody who is maybe making a less expensive wine and they use the young barrels, right? Run it in there, oak the heck out of it because maybe the wine could use a little covering up of flavors, right? And then they move it out. Well, now you have this oak, this barrel's already been used once. It's going to have a smaller effect every time it's used until they're finally used up, and then they go to, which they used to just be destroyed. And now they tend to go to whiskey makers, beer makers. Everyone's playing with each other's barrels now, which is, I think, a lot of fun. So there's the oak thing. Hopefully that made sense.
Yep.
So
we have another quote from Jeff for the after party.
it's
Just right there. Yeah. So the combination of the 70-30, they're wanting a little bit of vanilla-y influence there, but they don't want a whole barrel of it.
Right.
Just 30%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because of, like we were talking about, this, the herb, the spice, the floral part of Cab Franc, you don't want to cover it up with vanilla. But what they did do, which I think is kind of genius, is that this is this is Argentinian Cab Franc, which has a deeper, darker, richer fruit quality. They've added a little bit, I think, of cocoa coming in there. Like, have a sip, and it's almost like a little bit of, Mexican hot chocolate, where they have a little bit of like a peppery zip with cocoa. And it's almost like a Mexican hot chocolate effect if you would also make it a cherry chocolate, chocolate covered cherry with a little bit of a pepperiness to it.
Some cocoa in it.
That's where I'm going. Oh, wait, we have another question.
So I'm not sure if it's Laura, Linda, or Brenda, or maybe John's off camera.
That's right.
No, John's at the baseball game.
Yeah. Just
okay.
And I'm the designated, this is a mutual question, but I'm the designated spokesperson.
Okay.
So the question is how does it go in 70% of the French and 30% of the other? Is it a barrel that's constructed that way, or do they move it from one barrel to another?
Good question. So what they normally do is they're aging them in those barrels in that percentage, and they blend it all together when they're done.
Oh, so some of the wine goes in.
Some of the wine goes in.
70% of the wine
right.
goes into the French.
Right.
30% goes into the American.
Right.
Then they blend it
Though,
together. Okay.
I say that,
That's
and
a
one
good
time,
question.
that is a great question,
Yeah.
because one time, now I've heard it that way usually, which makes the most sense, right? I did hear one company that actually has their in-house cooper recreate the staves
Really?
to create the barrels in that percentage.
Huh. But that would be
Which
the
seems
more
like a
unusual.
lot more work. Yeah, I'm like, just do them that way and blend it. I don't know, that's me. I'm
Yeah.
not a winemaker, so
But if you have an in-house cooper, then that's a different thing too. If you're
Right.
not just buying your barrels.
yeah, it sounds
Then
like
you
you
can
just,
you can be more custom about it.
right.
Yeah.
Seems like an extravagance, but okay.
Well,
You know what? If you can do
everyone
it,
needs a shtick,
do it. That's right.
you know,
All right.
share.
So, hold on. So I talked about what I was thinking. So what are you guys thinking when I talk about like some cocoa, some pepper, a little floral, darker fruits? Everyone feeling good about those descriptions? Anything you think I'm missing? I think I'd call this a medium plus body on the weight on the palate, and I'd give it a medium plus on the tannins,
Mhm.
which I think French version I would only get up to about a medium. You know?
Yeah, I mentioned to Robin that I thought it kind of had a like a spice cherry component. Not so it's not sweet enough to have that almost like a cocktailish sort of thing to it. But it is, I was like, there was something to that. And then so when you mentioned like a Mexican chocolate, I was like, and then you also I think mentioned cherry, I was like, okay, that's probably that like combination there. I think there is definitely like some bell pepper.
Yeah.
I get that
Yeah.
on the end. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think specifically on the end.
Mhm.
And like maybe like a little bit of cola, but again, it's not sweet. It's just like a little bit of that like
Mhm.
I don't know that thing to it. But
Yeah, it's an interesting combination, and it's kind of what I love about it. It's like they are able to take the qualities of Cab Franc and really bump them up, right?
Mhm.
It's because they do add this bigger fruit component where it can be kind of, the French ones, cooler growth, can be kind of like very cranberry and red cherry
Okay.
and light bodied, almost no
Mhm.
tannin, a ton of spices and floral and herb and like greenness.
Mhm.
Where this guy, I think, has a great balance where you're getting a lot of it. It's a ton of flavor. And you can see it could stand up to some significant, this could actually, now that I've had it freshly,
Mhm.
because I haven't tasted it in a while,
Right.
could totally handle the chili.
Did you
right?
have this vintage before too, or is this a different vintage?
This is a different vintage than I
Okay.
had before. Mhm.
So yeah, it can handle the so we can have the chili with it
Right.
afterward. Gosh, I was going to ask you a question, now I've forgotten it. It'll come to me and I'll interrupt you.
Okay. So I've mentioned greater color and fruit intensity as compared to a French style. We'll talk a little bit more about why do I keep bringing up the French style now.
I remember my question.
Okay.
So the characteristics difference, it's all due to the difference in temperature, the warm growth as opposed to the cool growth.
It's going to be a combination of, but temperature, time on the vine, ripeness levels, that kind of thing.
I didn't know
It's
if this is a grape that takes a lot of characteristics from the terroir or not.
it does take a lot of them, but I think yes, but it's more about temperature and time.
Okay.
I think, rather than some of them which bring up all that minerality, where, because what I'm getting from here on the like the floral, herbal, green side is intrinsic to the grape, no matter where it is. That's in
Okay.
both locations, right?
Okay.
So the difference that I'm getting on the fruit is going to be a matter of ripeness and extra time on the vine. And that's a matter of Mendoza versus the cooler grows. So that is a temperature and time thing.
So extra time on the vine if it's in
Mendoza.
really,
Mhm.
even though it's warmer.
Yes. Because
Okay.
they're able to. Why?
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the maps.
Okay. Now I hear like Dora on the map, on the map, on the map. On the
Okay,
map.
first, let's jump over to the wine label discussion real quick, right?
Which we talked about a little bit because Paul brought up the difference on the information on the back.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So anyway, so we've got Aduentus,
Mhm.
made by Antigal. It's Cab Franc. You got the vintage. It's from Mendoza. Okay, cool. They're giving you good stuff. You get in there. I'm like, okay, I see where it's from. It doesn't say estate grown. So did this guy grow them or not? Not quite sure. Maybe yes, maybe no. We get on the back. Once again, gives a little thing. They define what Aduentus means, which is kind of nice.
Mhm.
They give you the fact that it's 100% Cab Franc and not blended, so that's cool to know. They don't always do that, and they even give you the the breakdown, which Paul pointed out,
Right.
on the oak aging, which I think is great. You get in here and you're still not seeing, and it really isn't like it's produced by, but it's not necessarily estate grapes, right? So they're buying them from within that area.
Mhm.
And some there, some not, most likely, but they're in full control of how these things are being grown.
Yeah, produced and bottled by the winery.
Right.
but
At
not-
least they are the ones making all the wine.
Right.
Right. 100%. So they're not just saying bottled, because we had the one that was just bottled.
Right. Right.
Even though it was
You-
tasty wine.
Right, you said normally you want to avoid that.
Right,
Unless
and-
you've had it or have, trustworthy people that can recommend it. to you.
Exactly. Unless somebody's recommending it to you and you look in there and you just see, Fat Cat Winery, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever it is, bottled by Fat
Right.
Cat Winery, period.
Mhm.
And especially if that winery if it's like, if you're saying, bottled by Red Canary Winery, Miami, Florida, and it's an
Oh.
Argentinian wine, then
Right,
you're like,
right.
just run. No. You're like- So anyway, so contains sulfites over there. Actually had some people ask, and I know it's a common question, they believe they would like to avoid sulfites, which I get, that's fine. Some people look for sulfite-free wine.
Mhm.
That is not a thing.
Okay,
Um,
it all has some,
Wine has sulfites naturally
even the
occurring.
Italian wines.
Yes. Even the organic wines, they all have naturally occurring sulfites. It's part of juice. But some wines have significant amounts of added sulfites to help them age. The French do that a lot.
I was just gonna ask you.
Mhm.
Okay,
French do that quite a bit. Americans do that with some of them too. Once again, it's not a bad thing to do. But I believe the worry about sulfites is overstated. I've read multiple articles on this. I'm not really sticking my neck out here. I read an article where they're saying everyone's talking about sulfites and they're not talking about the fact that certain people have a histamine reaction to red wine. So they talk about the headache they have the next day, and they're attributing it because somebody said, "Oh yeah, sulfites can cause headaches." Well, the article I read said, "Look, there's like 10 times more sulfites in one slice of bread at the dinner table than there is in your glass of wine."
That's real?
Yeah.
Okay,
So he said, nobody's saying, "Oh, don't eat the bread because of sulfites."
so, this is a stupid question, does white have sulfites too?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, just less.
So
But, yeah.
I know that my father cannot have red wine that is not from Italy or he gets migraine. So, but I don't know that
Right.
it is the sulfites, but I do know that empirically.
Right. Yeah, I'd have to go, and once again, I don't have all the answers. I know people are beginning to question the sulfite
Okay.
thing.
I don't know, maybe it's something out like the histamines, but I know that
Right.
you've given him red from
Mhm.
Italy and said,
There could have been
This-
something going on the other nights when he had reds that correlation is not causality.
yeah,
That
I
kind of a
understand that,
thing,
but, okay,
I don't know. I can't say for sure,
right,
but I can say that to keep him safe from headaches, I will
Right.
always go Italian
yeah. there
just
you
to
go.
be safe.
Well,
you know?
he's just gonna
So
be happier with
I'm not-
Italian
I'm not-
anyway. It goes with his last name.
Yeah, I'm not being critical of the choice to try and minimize sulfites,
Mhm,
but I do want to be realistic about
Sure.
the sulfites in wines. Right. We had this come up the other day in the store. I'm like, yeah, but there is no sulfite free. I mean, if somebody really pulled out all the
There's
sulfites,
low
they're gonna-
sulfite.
yeah,
I mean, there's lower.
yeah, there's lower sulfite.
Right.
Absolutely, there's sulfite variation of
Right.
amount. Absolutely, but there's not a sulfite free wine that I know of. I tried to look it up real quick. I didn't see anything pop up.
Okay,
And if it did, it's going to have gone through some kind of a process, which is definitely going to affect flavor.
sure.
So, oh, so,
Next.
yes, Cab Franc. So general flavors that we might expect: strawberry, raspberry, bell pepper, crushed gravel, and chili pepper.
Mhm.
So I would say the thing that gets left on the table here from the South American version, because the fruit bumps up so much, is I'm losing the minerality. And so if we were in France, I would gain more minerality, but you're going to lose some of the intensity on the fruit, right? So that's to me is where the give and take is. And for my dollar, I really do enjoy the South American expression.
So for me, I can definitely get like bell pepper and chili pepper, but I'm getting like darker cherry. Like
Mhm.
strawberry, I feel like it's a brighter flavor.
Yep. I
And
agree.
even raspberry, I feel like I'm getting like,
Black cherry and
Right.
red plum.
right,
Right.
right.
Yes, that's a South American thing. So this is,
Okay.
and this is talking about, and I like that you brought that up, because this is talking about more the traditional French expression of Cab Franc. And you'll see why that matters and why it would be the dominant description available when you see who grows the most Cab Franc.
Well, I'm seeing the word Franc and thinking
Right.
the French probably have the biggest influence over
You know,
the taste profile.
I gotta
What's
say,
out there.
that is a very smart observation. Yes. So because of the French being the classic, that is more of the classic. So when you
Right.
get something up from the French growth regions, you're going to do something, like
This
I
is
said,
more what you're
you know, more medium bodied with strawberry, raspberry, bell pepper, gravel, and chili pepper. I like that we're keeping some of the really cool characteristics that are the herbal side,
Yeah.
while gaining on the fruitiness,
Mhm.
which is generally more popular with the American palate. Hence, I think this one would, I think this would be well received for a Cab Franc
Sure.
in the US. Say medium high tannins. I would say a lot of times in France, I get barely to medium, but this
Okay.
guy, I would certainly say medium high tannins.
Mhm.
Medium high acidity. This guy is lower acidity than that.
Mhm.
This guy barely gets up to medium for me. And that is probably a decent part of the reason why it has 8 years instead of like 20 years to age.
Okay. I feel like 8 years is a decent amount though.
Nothing wrong with 8 years, not one bit.
Mm-hmm.
That is not a cheaper wine or anything. It's just how long.
Well, and I mean, sometimes wines aren't like, they're just not meant to age.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's like a cheaper wine. necessarily.
Absolutely.
It's
It's-
just not meant to age.
Mhm. And then here, look at the ABV. We're at 14.8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Again, that
ripeness.
8/10.
Yeah.
It's only the second time. Normally we're at like 5/10 or we're at just, you
Right.
know, just a whole number, but okay.
That was weird. I actually opened up a Petite Sirah at the store that was left as a sample today.
Mhm.
14.8.
Maybe it's a new thing.
Must be a
It's
thing.
the goal,
That's
14/8.
right. So additional ripeness, right?
Mhm.
Where does the extra alcohol comes from? The additional sugars. It's a more ripe grape, and that also gives us these bigger fruity or flavors and darker fruit. Next slide, please.
Okay.
All right, where is Cab Franc grown? Well, the blue is France. All
I
right.
mean,
So you can see why it tends to be defined by the French example.
sure.
And it's grown in France as a blending grape in
Mhm.
Bordeaux, and to add character.
Mhm.
And then they'll add some other things in order to get a little more oomph, because they tend not to have as good of tannins. Or
Okay.
I say good because I like big
As
tannins.
bold.
As bold of tannins. But they grow it in Bordeaux, Loire Valley, which is to the north of Bordeaux. In Chinon is the subregion,
Mhm.
and it's literally called Chinon. And that's where you can get 100% Cab Franc.
Okay.
And then down in Languedoc, it may be a blending grape, usually.
Mm.
It may be on its own, because Languedoc for France is the Wild West, has no rules.
Okay.
Like, you can do what you want in the Languedoc.
Yeah,
I think that
that's-
sounds like a musical song. I don't know,
It,
it's like-
it
it's
does, but it does, but that's highly unusual.
Yeah.
For France.
It is.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. I want to go down there and just see, like, I want to tour all of them. You have all the people that you have amazing wine, like,
Mhm.
but you know, maybe some very uptight people. And I just picture getting to the Languedoc and they're like, "Hey baby, welcome."
They're like
you know?
the hippies of France.
Yeah,
or
they're,
something,
hey, guess what we made? I'm not sure what it is. Drink it.
yeah.
So,
No, that would be fun.
right.
So, but Argentina is way down there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's below Canada.
It's just beginning. Now it's been there for a little bit. Came over in the 1800s with monks that had been in the northern France area,
Okay.
right?
All right.
But they basically never used it.
Mhm.
And then they discovered the vines were there in the 1990s. And they're like, how old are these vines? And they're like, oh, 100 years old.
Oh,
Like,
jeez.
holy crap.
Wow.
So they've got a great lineage to work
Mhm.
with down there. And I love that the Argentines are beginning to work with these. So anyway, next slide, please.
Okay.
All right. So here's one of the cool things also that I love about Cab Franc, because Cab Franc,
Sorry, he's knocking my hand.
not me, it's Monty.
Monty is back.
It's me. Slap. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So Cab Franc, in addition to having so much character, is, I call it the Mac Daddy of grapes, right? So Cab Franc is the parent grape for Cabernet Sauvignon, Carmenere, and Merlot. I think that's kind of cool.
No, that's very cool.
And then what isn't shown on here, which is also related, Malbec is a cousin to Merlot because they call it the female grape.
Mhm.
Anyway, the Magdalene Noir des Chartens, right?
Mhm.
That is the same mother grape as the Malbec,
Oh,
but
wow.
it just doesn't have Cab Franc in it.
Right.
Right. So they all kind of get related that way, these important grapes from all over the world.
Yeah.
But I can't believe, when you look at this, you've got Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Carmenere, and Cab Franc on its own, all completely related like that.
Yeah, that's very cool. And
Right.
then we have a mystery grape.
There's a
over there,
mystery
too.
one that also creates a grape I have literally never heard of before. There's
Okay,
all the grapes.
I was about to ask you about that one. Like, I recognize 5 of them, and then 3 of them, because what is that? Gros Cabernet?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that one.
And then
Not
the
that great.
Magdalene Noir des
And see that one,
Chardonnays.
there's no wine available made with that grape
Okay,
anymore.
it just
Yeah.
made the
It
Merlot,
made
and
the
now we
Merlot,
use
yeah.
Merlot.
So-
Okay, and now we drink Merlot. Okay,
Right. So,
that's very cool.
yeah, but yeah, who's your daddy? Cab Franc, baby.
Ready?
Yes.
I was just thinking of Kindergarten Cop. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
He makes wine.
Yep, there you go.
All right. So why is France on here? Because of the origin. So Cab Franc,
And they make most of it.
the origin, the origin of Cab Franc is down here in Basque Country in
Ah,
the southwestern France along the Pyrenees Mountains. So yeah, that's right. We talked about the Pyrenees Mountain. He's part Great Pyrenees. So the origin was here. It expanded to use here in Bordeaux as a blending grape. The Loire Valley, when you're talking about Chinon, where it's 100% use, is up here. Here's the Loire Valley, and it's kind of right here in the middle, is where you have Chinon produced. And so as they get up, this is the lightest area, kind of strawberry, cranberry,
Okay.
really herby and spicy. It's the coolest area.
so the flavor profile we saw is there in the Loire Valley.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it gets a little darker here,
Mhm.
down in Bordeaux. Still with those herby, cool characteristics,
It's
which have
warmer
made
there?
it's warmer there.
Okay.
So, it's one of the things they talked about, like, sometimes they can have like a sweet tomato quality, which
Really?
now I got that when we were drinking. Remember when we were drinking the Chianti?
Yes.
Yeah, I got that. That jumped right out, but I'm just tomato. Anybody? I'm not getting that on this guy.
Maybe with a
Mhm.
food pairing or something, you'll get that.
It could bring it out if it was a red
Mhm.
sauce. Makes sense. Fair enough.
Or you could just be tasting the red sauce.
Right.
I mean,
Right. Exactly. So I've covered all that area.
are we going to
Yep.
Argentina?
We'll go to the next slide.
Okay.
All right. So this guy.
Nope, not yet.
No, it has, a modestly thick skin. So like I said, we're not covered in tannins here, but obviously it can thicken and toughen in the right circumstance. But honestly, when it's up in Chinon in the northern Loire Valley, it's thinner skinned,
Mhm.
cooler growth. So it
Lighter
has the
tannins,
ability,
then?
much lighter
Yeah,
tannins,
okay.
light if any. Unless they crush it with because you can kind of fake it if you
Oh.
leave the seeds in and you crush it.
Oh,
But
really?
you get those tannins are really rough and astringent
Mhm.
and unpleasant. And then you got to oak the heck out of it.
Okay,
So
to round
there's
out
a
the
give and
tannins.
take
Okay.
to what you can do with that.
So if you do that, then you're putting it with new oak.
You're going to need to.
Okay.
I mean, or people are going to drink it and go, it's like, it tastes like a Band-Aid.
It tastes like a Band-Aid.
So-
You put that with the chicken fat wine that
Right.
we talked about.
So the peripheral zone is a really cool part of this grape, right? Because you're
Okay.
getting color from the outside,
Mhm.
but that peripheral zone is where you're getting kind of that herby, cool quality. Now, when you're in the French styling, the intermediate zone where all the tartness is coming from is more important. But in our version, that acid is going down, you're trading it out for more sugar, and you're getting more flavor in that peripheral zone from the skins. All right.
I feel like as it's warming up too, I'm getting more of that green peppery quality.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Get a little more of everything, even a little more cocoa. Would you like more?
Yep.
Speaking of more.
All right. I want to save some
Yeah,
for the chili.
Yeah, it's going to be a great pair.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. Okay,
Next.
next. All right, where in the world are we?
Okay, there you go.
All right, down here. We're down here right in the middle of the southern hemisphere growing latitude. So Argentina, Mendoza's right in the center to the far western edge. Here we go. So South American wine growing. Here's our good friend Uruguay. Love those guys, but we're not there this week. We are here, like I said, right in the center, Mendoza, right up against the Andes Mountains. You can see this region kind of mimics what's going on in Chile on the other side.
Yeah.
So, now these guys are maritime influenced, where the ocean doesn't really have an ability to affect over here. Not much does. All right, so what are we doing? Mendoza is a high altitude desert.
Oh,
So when I
wow.
talked about long hang time,
Right.
lots of sun,
Mhm.
very hot days, cool nights that cool quickly because the
Okay.
cold air comes rushing down out of the
Mhm.
Andes when the sun's not pushing it up, right? And no rain, like no rain. But the Andes have snowmelt. So they have these incredible
Oh,
rivers.
right.
So they
Okay.
irrigate.
Mhm.
They can control exactly. It's almost like if you just grew them inside,
Okay.
because it's a perfect growing medium.
I think we've talked about that before, about irrigating with that snow melt.
We have.
So it must have been another Andes mountain.
It was another Mendoza.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was another.
we're
Mendoza.
going to visit Argentina a lot. You know,
Sure.
at some point, you guys are going to begin saying the words with me, but
Right.
it's an amazing growing region.
Mhm.
So here we are, Mendoza. We are in the Uco Valley, which is closer to the mountains, a little higher elevation, because Cab Franc could use some coolness compared to Malbec, right? So they need to pump the brakes on it a little bit.
I'm sorry, I'm being nudged a lot.
I don't know what his deal is.
I don't know, he doesn't
So-
know how to do this.
So here's Valle de Uco. All right, so we're in here. So we're up against. So you see the Andean foothills are right here.
Yeah.
We're right up at it, high elevation. But you can see the rivers running all through here.
Mhm.
So, and it's ugly. What a disappointment. Who would want to look at that?
Well, I'm sorry if you can hear the dog drinking. He's
So-
kind of a loud drinker.
So I talked about it. The soil is clay, sand, and pebbles that are runoff from the Andes coming down. So low organic content, fast draining,
Mhm.
and high minerality, which is what wine loves. So it's like this was made to be the premier, the premier wine growing area in the world.
Yeah.
And I am sure that statement, if it got into the right ears, would be refuted by some other people, but
Some of the old world might be really upset with
they
that.
might be, and perhaps some people in California. You guys got it good, but I don't know if anyone has it like Mendoza. Amazing. Next, please. All right, there's the soil.
Yeah, it looks very dry and sandy.
Clay, sand, and
Clay.
pebbles. How does anything grow in it? I don't know, but
Only grapevines.
that's right. Well, that
You're
was-
not growing corn in that.
No, it's true. It's like some of the areas in Spain
Mhm.
where you look at it and they're like, literally there was nothing but weeds, donkeys, and then we put vines in.
Right.
That
and the
was from
vines
Juan Hill.
were
Yeah, the Juan Hill family quote.
Not happy, but made very good
Right.
wine grapes.
Well, the big thing here, so they're going to put their roots deep, and you have
Mhm.
all those rivers, so they can find
Yeah.
water down deep.
Okay.
And they get really cold winters, so they take a really deep rest
Mhm.
in between growth cycles.
Okay.
So here's the cold winters. I mean, you can see.
Yeah. I mean, if you seeing that soil, I would think, oh, nothing can grow here. But then,
Mhm.
of course, grapevines.
Right. Now they would do this. This is during the resting period, as you can see.
Mhm.
They would not allow all that water to get in there when grapes are on the vine
Okay.
because it would dilute the juice.
Will it also cause mold?
No, well, I mean,
They're not
would you say
humid?
there would be some humidity, but they have
Okay.
they have no humidity. They have no bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Everything's organic and sustainable because why?
Right.
Right? Why would you do anything else?
Right.
There's no humidity and no bugs. It's literally anti-Florida.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I don't even know what that's like. No humidity, no bugs. What?
All right, so here we are. So Antigal Winery. This is a refurbished winery that was a historic one from 1897.
I mean, it kind of looks like part of a church in the background.
Yeah.
You know, like it was a monastery or something.
Right.
Yeah.
They bought it in the year 2000 and then completely updated it and made it a modern winemaking winery. So 2005 was their first vintage. They had a single vineyard and they named it Uno for their first one, right? Number one, and we have the current version of that wine in the store. It's a higher price point, but
Okay.
absolutely fantastic.
Well, it's their first one. So
And it's the old Malbec grapes that were there.
that's really cool.
Right, from the 1897 one. So these are old vine.
That's 100% Malbec.
That one is 100% Malbec. Yeah, and they're known for their Malbec. It's Argentinian,
Okay.
you know, right? They're known for their Malbec, but they make some other beautiful wines, which I thought would be fun to explore. Can't drink Malbec all the time. So they actually started. So because it was number one, they wanted to put a number one on the bottle, which they stamped out of the staves from the barrels that they used. So they had a wooden number one on
That's so
on
cool.
the bottles, and it was from the actual thing,
Yeah.
which at this point they're a much bigger winery. It's not made out of that anymore, but it used to be.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
2007 they began to export, which think about it, it's only 2022. In 2007 is when they began international exporting, mostly to the US, but at this point they're all around the world. The winemaker is Miriam Gomez, and she is a Mendoza native that has been educated extensively in enology and wine, grape growing and all of that. So her quote is, she believes in science coupled with passion yields remarkable results. And I'd say she makes some really nice wine.
Yes. And I like her last name. It's my grandmother's
Oh,
maiden
yeah,
name.
that is true.
This wine is absolutely delicious. Praise be, Russell.
I'm glad you like it. This is a great wine. And
Yeah,
I
I
don't
really enjoy
automatically love Cab Franc.
Mhm.
I don't like, Jake and I are dichotomous on this. You guys know Jake at the store loves more old world expression.
Mhm.
I love more new world expression. Not always, but often, right? And I like quality new world expression, but so Jake is all about Chinon, right? He loves all that floral and cracked, because it almost gets their pepper version. It's almost like a pepper mill
Okay.
of like with pink peppercorns and these things in there. They're delicious. We had one actually about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah. They're delicious.
Just drink what you
They're
give
very
me.
character driven and they really need food,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay.
I love these because you can kind of go either way.
Well,
We're totally enjoying it.
I feel like this is a very approachable one too.
Yeah.
Like this one specifically that you could take it to a party and. you
Yeah,
know.
a lot of people, if they're not really into wines as much, they'll just drink it. Other people that want to think a little bit more about what they're drinking are going to love it because there's a lot to pull apart in here.
Right.
Which is Cab Franc, the Mac Daddy of wine is
The Mac Daddy of wine.
character driven.
Just trying to make it a thing.
You know what? I'm just going to keep saying it to the 6 people that listen.
Oh, hashtag Team Jake. Oh, Jeff's gonna
Oh,
not be happy with you. Jakey Two Sandals.
Yeah, that's right. Russell knows that nickname that Jake hates. So we have a video. It's
Okay.
only a minute.
All right,
All right.
cool. And then, of
Look
course,
at this.
when I try and get off of this, it's going to try and keep grabbing us. So.
There's the thing.
Yeah.
See, it wasn't too bad.
No, it was good. Okay, so I have to be fairly aggressive with this. Hold on. There we go.
All right.
So you want me to stop a moment to talk about it before we go to the
Yeah, we're
ratings?
going to talk about, or I can, since we're here, I'm going to explain it and then we'll go because people keep
Okay.
jumping ahead and doing it. All right,
Okay.
so wine score time, right?
Don't put your score in the chat box yet.
Right, wait till
Just
we're done.
hold
So let's pretend there's somebody new that's in here and hasn't heard this 100 times. So anyway, wine score. So this guy's 90 plus pointer, right? Listed as an outstanding wine of superior character and style. But 80s are not bad. 80s don't mean a bad wine. There's nothing wrong with an 85, a very good wine that you're happy you bought. There's nothing wrong with that. But in the wine world, it's considered really not good.
Well, it's not
effective-
something you're going to advertise.
Right.
If you get that.
Yeah, I just saw some advertised for a different thing, which I'll talk about off camera after we're done. And I was
Right.
like, oh, they actually put it up there. Well, okay then.
If you do that, you might sell it to someplace else other than us.
Probably someplace else other than our
Someplace
store.
else other than our store,
Yeah.
right?
And if it's an 85, it needs to have a really reasonable price point.
Exactly.
So the effective thing is, even though 85 should mean very good, the effective truth is it means not very good.
But if you, what is interesting to me with this range of 85 to 89 is I feel like 88 is the magic number. Like you hit 88
You're right.
and people suddenly have respect for it.
No, you're totally right. And 88,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, okay. You know what? If that guy's a 25 or under wine
Mhm.
at 88, and I'll give that guy a try. You're right.
Mhm.
88, 87, you're like, oh no, you're not going
Right.
to get me on that guy.
Right.
It's a weird thing, and I think they could do better, but there is no official group to force a standardization of wine ratings. But anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So is it a very good wine? Is it an outstanding wine? Is it just a good wine? I don't know how happy you are, but I'm about to find out. So you guys tell me what you're thinking. And we told you not to do it yet, so Chris's score gets thrown out.
No, he literally just did it. As you said. He probably had it typed in already and then hit enter as you said, okay. So Chris said, funny, you should say that, 88.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah,
So-
88. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, you're like, all right, to me, 88. All
Oh,
right.
89.
88, 89.
There
If
you
you're not
go.
crazy into it, that means I'm still happy I bought it.
89 from
Yeah.
Laura, Lynn, and Brenda.
Okay.
90 from Jerry.
Mhm.
91 from Linda.
Russell, 92.
Linda and Paul. Okay,
All right.
Russell,
Couple of
92.
91s.
Yep.
92.
I would have said 91, 92.
Nice.
91.5.
Nice. And you're a big cab lover.
I
so-
know, I appreciate the flavor of it, even though it's not as aggressive as I normally go to, but I
I know
appreciate it.
you're like, oh, don't use it all up. I want to keep it with dinner. And
I do
love
want to
that.
keep it with dinner. Yeah.
That is what this guy is, right?
Mhm.
That's
Well, because
And-
I'm already on my second glass and I'm looking at it thinking we need to
Yeah.
save some for dinner.
yeah. No, to me, that I really appreciate that you wanted to do that.
Mhm.
That is what it should be. I would give this guy a good 90 plus, 90, 91.
Mhm,
I really enjoy this wine.
mhm.
And I'm going to tell you, like, my thing is I've had plenty of 92 point Chinon because they're not my game, right?
Right.
Where I would give them an 88, right? So,
Because they're not what you would.
right. So I
Right.
get people here saying, 88. Look, I'm glad I had it, but it's
Our
not my
range is
favorite
88 to
thing.
92.
Yeah.
That's a pretty small range.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's
really,
all a very good range.
Yes.
Yeah, like,
Mhm.
that is a wine well enjoyed and justifiably so.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And again, if there's an 85 point wine that you like,
Drink it.
drink it.
Yeah.
Drink what you like.
That's true.
Mhm.
You might not want to tell me about it. You might get a raised eyebrow. I'm just saying. I try to control my facial expressions, but sometimes.
Do you?
Nah, not really.
Okay.
I'm over 50 now. I don't care.
Yeah. You're at 50 now. You're not quite.
I'm
old.
50 plus because I'm days older.
Okay,
than
all right.
50.
Well, you're months older.
Yeah,
than
that's right.
50. There you go.
Measuring it in days. I'm going to say days.
I'm gonna say months.
Yeah, okay.
Should we?
Yeah, let's jump back and we'll thank our sources and then get to next week's one.
Or, I mean, if anybody has any, before we jump back to the slides,
All right.
if anybody has any comments or questions about this wine
Sure.
this week.
Any last thoughts? Anything we haven't covered?
I always feel like I score higher when I pair it with food. I had the burger from Spurrier's. It's like a brisket short rib burger with bacon
Yes.
on it, and I just loved it. And we both scored 91. So
I also had bacon, but I had a salad. But I feel like bacon pairs well with many red wines, or maybe I just love bacon. I don't know.
I mean,
So Paul, did you name that burger the Linda? Because
no,
it's a topper?
I don't name my food because then I'll love it too much where I can't enjoy it. So it's kind of like if you had a pet cow, you can't name it. Or else you won't eat it. So
T-Bone. It's a good cow name.
so let's see. Okay, Jerry paired his with chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a chocolatey flavor to it. That'll work.
Mhm. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
And
And it's nice
85%.
dark chocolate.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. Pair it with a nice dark chocolate.
Oh, yeah,
Not
yeah,
a
not a
milk
milk
chocolate.
chocolate.
Yeah.
But with that, like the dark chocolate with bacon in it that we have, boom, nailed it.
Mhm.
That'd
There
be
you
great.
go. Okay, and then Chris and Robin had pork, veggies, and mushrooms.
Nice.
So savory dish then.
Yep.
Yeah, both the pork and the mushrooms are giving you that.
Oh, yeah,
savory
absolutely.
flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, that should have worked nicely.
Mhm.
Has anybody else had cheer wine before?
Cheer wine?
Mm-hmm. It's a soda. So if I had to liken this wine to a soda that was, flat and not sweet, it's very, very dark, rich fruit. It's
Actually,
almost like a Dr. Pepper, but just even more fruity. And it's just,
Huh.
that's when people were talking about sodas, I was like, and that particular syrupy flavor, I was like instant cheer wine, but yeah.
Huh,
Yeah,
interesting.
I've heard of it. I think when I was in
Yes,
North
cheer
Carolina-
wine, North Carolina.
North
So,
Carolina.
There you go.
Yeah.
I get the
Alright.
cheer wine reference. Yes.
Yeah. When I was in North Carolina, that's that. Yeah, I remember the cheer wine. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, cheer wine's great. Yeah. I totally agree with Russell again, because I was also thinking like a cherry cola stuff. I don't think it's quite as sweet as that, but yeah, that's like absolutely like in that same wheelhouse of like,
Huh.
Oh, yeah.
I can jive with that.
I can go with it,
wine is-
especially now that it's warmed up a little cherry cola quality because of that spiciness.
Yeah.
It kind of peps it up. Yeah,
Well,
It's a
and
nice wine.
then
I like it.
so I had bell peppers with her salad. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So Linda had bell peppers in her salad, so it
Yeah.
paired and bacon.
Right.
So yeah. Mhm. Would you
Okay.
like for me to share?
I would.
Okay.
Let's finish it
We'll
off.
thank our sources and then reveal the next week.
That's right.
Ready?
All right, Wine Folly, always. Those guys are amazing. Thank you, Wine Folly, for all that you share. 750.com, that's my source for purchases and all kinds of information. Wikipedia and Antigal themselves. They did a nice job sharing today. So I like it when the wineries help me out to sell their product.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So,
I have one question. I'm gonna stop the share a moment because I have one question before we move, or I can keep the share, but
okay,
so she had bell peppers in her salad
right.
and there's a bell pepper flavor. So is that something like you want something that tastes the same?
It's both. All right. So
Okay.
the two pairing styles for wine are you want to go antithesis or complementary.
Okay.
Right? So that's why if you have spicy Thai food,
Mhm.
Riesling,
Okay.
right? So you got a sweet
Sweet
with
the
the spicy, right?
Okay.
But at the same time, if, like I said, if you had this with Ropa Vieja,
Mhm.
you would have that spiciness going with the roasted bell peppers that are in Ropa Vieja,
Sure.
right? So you want to go with complementary or the opposite, like
The
depending on
antithesis, yeah. Okay. All right. So the big
I
thing
mean, but-
not to go with is, because I'm looking at, you're saying you go with the same or you go with the opposite. So
Yeah, that was probably too simplistic because, go ahead.
yeah, I know. I mean, I'm just, you're just not looking for something that's completely out of like.
What you don't
just
want is to
black?
you don't want to step over the flavor to where you can't taste your food, where it would be complimentary. All right. So
Okay.
because I did a poor explanation there, so
Okay.
you brought it up and I didn't mean to step on your sentence.
No, it's fine.
But so with the Thai food,
Mm-hmm.
a Riesling would complement that because it's going to come in with a sweetness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a white wine, so it's not going to stomp on the flavors, right? So
Okay.
that way it enhances.
You don't want something
But if-
that takes over your.
Right, if
flavor
you had a piccata grouper and
Mhm.
drank a Cabernet Sauvignon with it, that's just going to stomp on it and you're not going to taste the grouper.
Okay.
You know,
Yep.
that makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm. Yep. That does make sense, although I will drink a red with literally anything. So- But it does make sense as
Oh,
far,
yeah.
because when
Yeah.
you force me to drink something that's actually pairing with it, it is,
It makes a big
it
difference.
does
right?
make it.
Yeah, this with a baked chicken breast, you're not going to taste the baked chicken breast. It's going to be Cab Franc that you can chew. You know? I'm just saying. All right. All right.
All right.
So you guys have been so good. It's that time to bring everyone back to Cabernet Sauvignon.
Mhm.
Owen Rowe Yakima Cabernet Sauvignon. Washingtonian, right?
Okay, I feel like
James
it's been a
Suckling,
while
92,
since we've
James
been in
Dunning, 92.
Washington.
It has been a while since
Yeah.
we've gone to Washington. By the way, this normally would be beyond the non-holiday budget for
Okay.
what we do.
Okay,
I got a special deal. I'm gonna hold them behind the counter for you guys first, because I think we're gonna sell out of them.
okay,
So they're coming in tomorrow. I would suggest jumping on them by the weekend. I'm going to hold off on sending out the email so other people don't come and snag them all, because I want you guys to get them first. Because it'll be within the normal price range of what you guys are used to, but it's normally a $55 bottle of wine.
oh, okay,
Right. So that's
so people that
Yeah.
know it will jump on it. and-
right. People that know it will be like, wait, it's what now? You know, and then they'll go
Okay.
nuts and they'll come in, because it's going to be a bigger discount than normal, which I know is not normally how we operate, but when I can,
Right,
I do.
yeah,
Right. Food pairings, I wanted to get a little more fun with cab instead of just saying steak. You know, right? So spiced tuna with saffron couscous.
Mhm.
Actually, that sounds awesome.
yep.
Hanger steak with asparagus salad, grilled eggplant.
Ooh,
Or you know what? Steak.
or steak. Can you have a hamburger with it too?
Hamburger, you know,
Hamburger with
anyway,
bacon.
exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
It's cab. You guys know what to do. Yeah, it's going to be a great bottle of wine, and it's kind of a special version. So
I'm excited to get back to Washingtonian. Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. Have a little bit of wine
Washingtonians.
now.
Yeah. No, they're fantastic.
Because we haven't done that in 4 months. I feel like it's been maybe longer. than
Oh,
that.
no, it's been much longer.
Okay.
I haven't done a Washingtonian here in 9 months, probably.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah, I think it was right about. So that's what we're doing. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I think I'm going to have to keep this behind the counter, because I could only get 2 cases at that price. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there was a limit. So
Mhm.
anyway.
Yep.
So that's it.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
So when are you going to release the email so that they know how long they have before you're sending it to
Oh,
the
I will
masses?
not release that email until I'm probably going to do it on Monday
Okay.
to give people the weekend to
Okay.
get through it. So
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So it comes in Friday.
it comes in on Wednesday, comes in tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So you've got Wednesday through Sunday.
And then release it
And
on
then-
Monday, the email on Monday, you said.
And yeah, if it's not sold out, then I'll release the email.
Okay.
Otherwise, I won't even release an email this
Right.
week, because you guys might get it all. So,
Here's what
which
you
is
do.
fair enough. I mean, hey, you
Ah.
guys earned it. You guys
Yeah.
support us every week and you come here.
Yeah.
So, hey, with membership has its privileges.
There you go.
Trademark, I can't remember which credit card, American Express.
American Express.
Yes,
That's
right.
it.
I give you credit. I'm not trying to take your thunder there, Amex. So.
No, they're just happy you said it on the recording.
Yeah, I gave them credit. I didn't type it on my slide, but I said it, right?
You did.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very
coming.
much for joining us tonight. I think everyone liked it.
Yeah.
It's,
88 to 92.
that's
There
right.
you go. Cheers, everyone.